Hey YouTube, did you know that with Storm Stomp that you had your, you, you could, you'll do, you wants, you could do so, you'll do, you could, you want, you want, you want them to Storm Stomp first because second Storm Stomp wins? Yeah, Storm Stomp wins if you Storm Stomp second. It's pretty simple. Incoherent gibberish aside, I decided to go with a punch build, and I'm going to show it on screen for you now for those of you who are interested. And because punch weapons are inherently very lightweight, you can have fairly good armor, you can have the icon shield on your back, and since the heaviest fist weapons weigh like somewhere around 3 units, you have a lot of extra points. You can get your endurance up to 30 or so, and you still have a little left over. You could go a little higher if you need that stamina real bad. If you're willing to tank your dex, then you can have a really high strength stat, like mid-70s, fairly comfortably. Even hitting 70, you could still have 5 extra points to throw where you need if you actually want to have a little more versatile of a build. I think you could probably comfortably do 68 or even 69 strength on your build and have it functional for more than just punching. But if you want to go punch pure, that's kind of what you want. And I learned a whole lot of things while doing a punch build, of course. I always learn things. If I wasn't learning things, I would be failing. And, well, my goodness, punch weapons have short range. Being forced, or rather forcing myself, to use only punch weapons to solve every situation, it was a little difficult. I'm not gonna lie, it was a little tough. There were situations where I wish I had all the parts that came with my usual strength builds. I didn't have a Stormhawk axe to, blend people. I didn't have a spinning slash on a frosty Knight's twinned blade or whatever. I didn't have great bows or jar cannons or any other things that are incredibly nice to have. I could have had them, I suppose, but I wanted to mostly focus on punch builds, I wanted to focus on having punch weapons, misspoke for a moment. And I included a few claw weapons that were a little less dainty for the sake of the video, and I think I use fan daggers once or twice just because confirming a kill every now and then was tough. Every time I've used punch weapons in the past, it's always been to swap 2 for an endure and a quick trade, or to finish somebody off with the double hit, running attack. Generally still at close range. And my goodness, did I learn. This video is by no means a showcase of me going, look at me, I'm super proficient with punch weapons. I'm the coolest guy with punch weapons ever. Nobody could ever outpunch me, even with swords and axes and spells and such. No. This was a learning experience through and through, and I learned a good deal about spacing, timing, dealing with latency, at least to a slight degree. And I think I'd very much like to do more focused videos like this in the future. Really isolating one aspect of play and trying to get better at it. Punch weapons were definitely an experience, mostly because of their short range, but they have a lot of strengths to them. They're definitely worthwhile. And I would recommend that you put a couple punch weapons on your build. And if you're one of them crazy people who have been asking me for a video on punch builds, and, because you want to make a punch purist build, I'm going to warn you. I'm going to warn you right here and now. You might not have the best of times. Now, in PvE, there's plenty of situations where you can make a punch build work, and it'll really start to shine at mid to high level. Early game, you might have a little trouble, but there's ways around that. It's the PvP sense where it really can be difficult to do just pure punching. There were so many times where I wanted to switch to a Stitcher or some other crutch of mine, I suppose. But forcing myself to use them anyways, very good and grand experience. If you're going to level a punch purist build, because I know a few people who might want to do that personally, then you're more than likely going to want to level vigor and strength side by side. I would do vigor first. I'd prioritize vigor personally, but since I know some of you can't be dragged away from your damage stats, level your strength and vigor side by side until you get about 40 of each or what have you. I'm telling you, focus vigor. You're not going to get a lot of damage until you've upgraded your weapon a fair amount, but if you can't help yourself, level them side by side. And then once you've gotten your strength in the department of 50, maybe 54, then, you know, worry about some of your other stats. That's how I would probably progress the build if I were playing it. But you do you. You have a grand time. I now want to rephrase all of that, my goodness. But I guess if I were to rehash the idea, I would honestly just blast Vigor and worry about upgrade level being the bulk of my damage until I probably have about 40 Vigor. Then I would catch up Strength while probably still investing 2 points of Vigor for every 1 point of Strength probably until my Vigor's at least 50, if not 58 or 60. And then, you know, really catching Strength up. Around that point, you probably have enough upgrade levels that it'll start to show. Yeah, that's what you ought to do. Alright, enough of that. This Longo fight I decided to include because it was one of my first major pitfalls while playing a punch build primarily. And that is spacing and aggression. And that's a tough thing to get around. And of course with latency you feel like you're making punches that ought to hit. That's where status ailments come in handy. Having a frost infused punch weapon, if you're strength build through and through, can be very handy. You can make people more susceptible to damage, and they can take a chunk of damage if you land your attacks well, and that's all well and good. More damage plus more potential damage, sign me up. And then you can swap to your heavy weapon or what have you. You can also throw greases on your physically infused punch weapon. You could have poisons, you could have bleeds. If you're using the spiked Castus or the Starfist, they already come with a little bleed, so a little blood grease can go a long way in helping you with those statuses. If you are willing to count the Serpent Fang or whatever it's called, look at that. I was trying to show him how dejected I was for getting parried, and then I realized this is the king of latency. How he parried me, I don't know. He was several time zones away from me, I'm sure. It was like a 280 ping situation or something like that. It was awful. And so he's watching me, he thinks he's all cute, and I'm pointing out this guy now because there's a, I'm not going to call it a rematch, but another incident with this fellow in the same exact location, where I even have to speed up the footage. And I want you to be aware of that, I want you to look forward to it, because, oh, is he a laggy son of a gun? And I will never understand these bonfire duelists. The more I play the game, the more I come to despise them. I know there's, I'm going to call them professional reds or professional invaders out there who hate blues vehemently. And though blues can be agitating and feel unfair, I don't hate them. Not outright. Every blue needs to earn my hatred. But bonfire duelists, there's something about a fellow who's willing to stand around with a rune arc. That's what that little yellow symbol is by his HP bar. So he's got a rune arc, so he's got whatever bonus comes with that, probably +5 in every stat, or Morgoth's health, or Radahn's health, stamina, mana buff, whatever. Doesn't matter. But he has a rune arc, and then he has twice as many flasks as I do. And it's like, what are you learning by doing that? What are you learning by having twice as much healing as your average Joe? If you really want to learn and conserve your resources and get better, go play in the arena. They actually added it to the game. That is a function you can fully enjoy. Level playing field, every win feels pretty good. Hey, when I was feeling down after a string of losses while recording even this video, I decided to hop in the arena, and I got, I don't know, probably 7 wins in a row, and that cheered me up, and then I went back to invading. It felt nice. And that is going to be my ultimate caveat for the whole video. Punch builds are ideal for 1v1s in the arena. That's where they feel the best. You can surprise people with your damage. There's not infinite places for people to run. They're not going to narrowly escape and heal. They're not going to have, you're not going to be outnumbered, because that's where the punch build feels a little bad. You're going to have people who are aggressive and trying to come at you, and then you can use that to whiff punish to really mess people up. That's where it's the best. People who are incredibly passive or waiting for you to aggress, often happening in gang squads or invasions, that's where the punch build kind of falls off a little bit. So I think punch builds And by punch builds, I mean just fist and claw weapons for the most part. Every time I say that, that's what it's analogous for. You don't have to revolve your whole build around punching and clawing people, don't you fret. Or using the katana, which I don't remember if it counts as a claw. I think it might count as a claw, but I digress. It has its own moveset, which is kind of neat. I like the katana. I allowed it because it's not a dainty claw. But back to my original thought, I feel like punch weapons do the best in duels, as well as probably in situations where you have a very aggressive enemy, because you can play around it a little bit. Very aggressive, but not necessarily overwhelming odds. But I really like this clip that's playing right now. This duo that I was playing against, they were spell spammy and using Ash of Wars that would scare off most people. But you find your way in, you take your time, you allow your healing, and that's one thing that this build does allow you to have very readily, because I wasn't using a whole lot of Ash of Wars that deal damage directly. I kind of had a free slot where I normally put my Shard of Alexander, and so I can put the Health Restore Talisman there, and then the Icon Shield on your back, and then you can use Bestial Vitality. Yeah, Bestial Vitality, the heal yourself over time spell. And that is 3 sources of healing, and you have a measly 12 faith. Not a whole lot. You don't need a whole lot, and it made a sizable difference. A very sizable difference. Ooh, watch this bit coming up here. This was a complete accident, but I love the way it looked. I get in his face, I pop a bolus while he's using the Raven Mount jump, and then I'm able to punish him after I don't hit his counterattack. Oh, I'd be so salty if I was him, seeing somebody bolus in my face and not taking my bait. Had I planned that? I should have told you I planned that. I should have told you I'm that cool. Anyway, remember that really latent fellow from earlier who parried me, but ultimately ended up losing due to the misfortunes of our internet connection? This is him again. This is the kind of fellow he is. You know, rune-arced, willing to heal or whatever. A million times. I speed up the footage because he runs for days. I don't know what he was expecting. Using the Taunter's Tongue allows you to be invaded by 2 people, even if you have the item that lets you bring hunters into your world. In fact, if you have the Taunter's Tongue on and you bring another friendly phantom to the world of any kind, that does open up the possibility for another red to show up. And this guy, I think he was going to Mikola branch the bear, or at least that's what I thought he was going to do. I don't even know if the Mikola's branch works on a rune bear, but that would be very clever of him if he were to do so. But no, he has a far more different plan in mind than what I originally thought. And now that I know this spot exists, oh, I hope I run into this fellow one more time, because he runs onto this cliff and then he uses the assault move to knock you off and kill you. But I landed on a little sub-cliff, and he died and I didn't. Isn't that neat? Isn't that funny when people get their comeuppance? When people do dirty things and they meet a very dirty, sad end? Is that not revitalizing to your soul? Does that not bring you peace? Does that not bring you fulfillment, living vicariously through me? I sure hope it does. I couldn't tell what this duo was up to, and I felt kind of bad backstabbing the host. So I gave him a punch, realized he was almost dead. I was like, I'm not going to do that again. I'm going to go fight his phantom. Maybe his phantom will put up more of a fight. Spoiler, I was a little sad to find out this was indeed not the case. I mean, it was a little practice, so I included it. And, pivot backstabs feel nice, don't they? But, not the biggest fight. A little latent, so it takes a couple tries to get in some good punches. They were staring at me as if I was the first invader they had ever seen. Like they'd seen other phantoms before, other co-opers. And the host kind of gives in, I don't know, but he was poking at me a little bit. I don't know if he's afraid, or if he's done, or if he just wants it to be over. Do they usually wait for themselves to die at the hands of the invader? Should I have waited? No, you should have waited. I should have known the wise words of my good personal friend, Sigward of Katarina, would come to haunt me. Speaking of hosts and phantoms, of which I cannot read their minds, these fellows think they're sneaky. Camouflaging themselves off to the side. What was their goal? What were they hoping to do? Did he think I couldn't see his golden visage? Or perhaps the glintstones in the statue that are weirdly out of place? There's no boss up the hill here. Why were they co-oping here? Were they going somewhere else? I mean, this person's name is Blue Girl New Game Plus, so maybe they're just going through the game on New Game Plus? Makes me wonder if they're higher than level 137, because that's where I play this build at. I couldn't tell you what they were all doing. Not in the slightest. But this ended up being a really lengthy invasion, and the 3v1s really can be, especially when I had a limited kit such as a punch build. I really needed to pick my battles. Full engaging when you have a 3-man squad that seems geared for damage is a recipe for getting absolutely and completely blendered. Everything you understand about 1v1 interactions, what weapons stumble for what length of time or what have you, what weapons combo together, you know, how can you space to deal damage? All of these things go out the window when there's a 3v1. They can't hit each other, they're co-oping. They can cover each other's shortfallings very easily. A split second where you've absolutely outplayed somebody can be your downfall if the other guy just off screen has a well-timed attack. Weaving in and out of combat in a 3v1 is scary deadly. Doesn't matter which way you spin it, that's how it is. Even 2v1s, if you don't have them both on screen, can be kinda spooky. In fact, it's very recommended to keep as many of those suckers on screen as much as you can, and I narrowly escape. Oh, good thing they kept swinging their attacks, though. Gave me a little bit of a head start to escape and to heal. None of them are super confident. I would say the host was definitely their ringleader and the most willing to get in there and to do silly things. I mean, they wanted to parry me. They had a dagger and a shield. They have their Stormhawk axe. Definitely some sort of strength build going on. And they want me dead. And it's a scary place to be on the water when somebody's chasing after you with the taser axe that holds you in place. I was kind of disappointed that the Flaming Strike never hit. I couldn't hit that guy with a Flaming Strike. He was a little bit latent. And I've been getting better at spotting people who are latent and fighting them differently. And basically, what I've learned as a simple rule for latency is trades aren't real. Don't expect to trade. Don't expect to interrupt when you mean to. Because your interruption may come late and they might get their attack through anyways. This guy keeps trying to parry my little flame. And I think the second part can be parried, but I don't think this guy had the timing for it. But he kept trying, and so I was always mindful of parries in the back of my mind. One thing that always makes me sad is when you're in relatively low-level areas at meta level. Even though this is New Game Plus, these guys don't put up much of a fight. They're not the backup you're hoping they will be. So usually you're just looking for openings when it comes to using mobs. Not necessarily damage, not necessarily helping you kill them, but delaying the inevitable. Or the inevitable outcome if you are, or they are allowed to persist, your foes. And so I noticed one of them had split off from the group, and aha, here you are. And I got a little overeager, didn't throw my punches very wise, because I need this guy dead yesterday. Because there are 2 other people around the corner, and he needs to be gone. And once he's gone, oh boy, I can heal, I'll get some flasks back, dodge a moonlight beam. Alright, here we are. Now we're in a whole different dynamic, the 2v1. And I decide, well, he's going to attack so much with his little dagger, I figure it's parry bait. Why not? Focusing too much on me, I see, and I don't even swap my weapon very well. I'm one-handing my punch weapon. And there's the parry. I'm able to go for 2 because of how bizarre the latency is and still get the riposte. And now the dynamic has shifted wholly and totally. And I stand by that phrase that I learned a little while ago, I think from a YouTube channel called The Coop. I think he said it in his Patch 110 How to Invade video. And he said, look for your 1v1s. And, well, I did tell you earlier that the punch weapon is really good at 1v1s. Something about that one-on-one situation, the fist weapons really shine. You have good damage. You need to have good spacing, but you have quick damage. You have double hits. As long as they're not parry spamming, you're probably in a good spot. And this guy, he wanted a parry. He wanted it so bad. He probably would have killed me with a parry. Who knows what he's got in that misericord of his. And, of course, a symptom of latency is storm stomps mean nothing. Maybe this guy had enough poise for a storm stomp, I don't know. But didn't seem like it. Didn't feel like it. But I was really proud of myself for winning this 3v1 against all odds. Oh, spoiler, I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have said that. That's on me. I should have let you just enjoy what was going on screen. Difficult as this person was, I showed up and turned it around. And don't you fret, none of the other clips are as long as this one. I think that was like a 6-minute invasion after trimming a little bit of the fat. My goodness. The things I put you through, but I felt like all of these clips were important in some capacity. Either they showed off an Ash of War, or maybe they showed off a situation, so you can see full frontal view the the fist build and how it does. Because it's got goods, it's got bad. If I were to make any recommendation, I wouldn't have it be your only weapon in your repertoire. Not by a long shot. I felt like I was missing out on too much. Situations that could be solved without it. Now, was it fun? Yes. I thoroughly enjoyed it. If I could have more character slots, I would probably have a designated punch build all the time. I suppose I could back up my saves, but bleh. I'd rather just reformat the character, I suppose. I don't know, something about swapping saves just agitates me. I don't want to have saves that just get lost to time because, oh, did I make this change on that save? Or did I make this change on that save? Nah, it's way too much effort. I just want more slots. Please, Miyazaki, give me more character slots for the DLC. And other lies I tell myself that will never, ever come to pass. Throughout this video, you may have noticed a recurring theme for people who die. If it's not me roll-catching somebody when I've whittled them down to near no HP and relying on that double hit to finally clip that sucker, because timing and latency is still a little alien to me, it's people who trade with you when you have Endure die. You hit more than them, you have status effects to interrupt them. It is a winning combination. And that's where fist builds really shine, is if some fool tries to trade with you and you have Endure going, unless they have something else that hits in pairs, like straight swords also using Endure, or twin spears also dealing status, or something of that caliber, you will usually come out on top, I've found. Yeah, I think the only other things I don't want to trade with are another pair of fists, if I can help it, and even that's not true in 100% of cases. Twin swords, especially those with status, and probably like twin nagis or twin spears. It's the paired setups, the other paired setups that aren't worth it. I'll even trade with colossals because they're just too slow. I can usually, count my HP a little bit, count my hits, and make my damage work for me. All in all, great fun. If you want to try out punch builds, secure yourself some larval tears, build your character around, or switch an existing character to focus around it, kind of along the parameters I've given you at the start of the video, Make sure you have a high damage stat, minimize the stats you're not using and whatnot, just so you can have the best version of a punch build. And go to the arena. Go have some fun there. Understand how the weapon works. Get that drilled into your brain so that whenever you're running fists on whatever other build you have, as a sidearm, you have a phenomenal little tool to back you up. Oh, I love Horolu's Earthshaker. It's not as strong as it once was. I don't know if that's because people are smarter or what. But every now and then, you can catch people off guard with it, and you can trade some big old damage. And that was a sort of a saving grace. I think every build should have some sort of AoE big damage get off of me move if you can manage it. Usually, for a strength build, you can have a Stormhawk axe, or you could put Waves of Darkness on a colossal weapon. Heck, you could, if you have enough physical stats, you could put Waves of Darkness on your wizard build as well. You could have, I don't know. For dex builds, you could have, I guess you can also use the Stormhawk axe to a lesser extent, but you could have the Hero of Zamor's Curved Sword that has that blizzard ability. Have your moves that get people off of you. You can have Spinning Slash on a long weapon. Maybe a Nagakiba or something like that, something that spins, comes out fast, gets people off of you, and if they stay on you, they live to regret it, or they die regretting it. Taster's choice. I'm putting it on the not-so-established checklist of things I like to have for a build. And usually it's, you know, something that hits fast, something that has reach, something that's good for chasing. And these things can, of course, overlap. You know, a big get off of me button, whatever that is for you. Something that can fight in narrow hallways. You know, you need all sorts of things. It's nice to think about what you like to have for certain situations, even outside of the flavor for the build. And look at this poor wizard I'm bullying. I didn't include a whole lot of the duel footage because I figured you didn't care to see it. They're a little lackluster, and a lot of people like the narrative that comes with the invasions. But I liked that one. I liked it because he died real fast. He kind of succumbed to the damage. And my goodness, you can really punish people. And it's, if you catch people unawares, you can kind of get them to panic because they understand that you have big damage and surprising damage. And usually they don't understand it up front until you've really made them feel it. Or you make them feel it, I should say. I'm just harassing these people with pots. This was a invasion that had an okay start. I don't know, I like throwing the pots at them. I thought that was fun. So I included it. And then there was a little space of time where it was just me catching up to them before the rest happens. So we'll get our little transition coming up here. Whoa, there we go. And so, fighting them again, and it's looking for the 1v1s. This guy's got the Earth Steel Dagger that hits really hard because he's using Sacred Blade on it. It hits so hard. Oh my gosh, Sacred Blade is so darn strong. I should play another Faith build. But I kind of want to change up the Faith build I have, so I'm trying to find my in. I don't dare go, you know, toe-to-toe directly when there's two of them, because that guy's got the Eleonora Pole Blade. He's got some meanal incantations, and so I'm keeping my eye on him the whole time, looking for my in, trying to tenderize him a little bit. At this point, I have no clue that there's they have the Taunter's Tongue on, which is funny because I almost killed, or one of the phantoms I dealt with, and he got sent home for some largely unexplained reason. I think the host sent him home so that he wouldn't feed me any flasks. And so I show up here, and of course, the red has everything under control, even giving me an obligatory slap to get out of his way. Oh my goodness, dual Nagakipas. Something about the fat Vare with the dual Nagakipas is still scary to this day. I will never shake that fear. I want to learn how to parry twin spears. That's what I really want to do. But it's so risky. If you flub, you take big damage. Generally more than just one set of big damage too. Sometimes they get 4 hits on you and that can just end it all right then and there. But I like this guy, this Forgotten Knight. I love how he split up the word so it wouldn't get censored. It's so charming. But he was running right for the mirror match with the Mimic tier, and I, you know, casual wave say hey to him, and he actually stops and has an honest to goodness duel with me. And he's running the Piercing Fang on the Knight's Halberd. And I thought, that looks good. That's a little classy. What a nice fellow. I hope he enjoys his day. Even though he died. You don't die, and you enjoy your day. Bye-bye now.